In this video, I'm going to talk about the different aspects of the model inventory management in the credit risk analytics industry in banking and financial service. All right. Uh, in the model inventory, what is important is the model type should be well defined. Model type will based on the type of model that is there in the model inventory. Um, in the credit risk domain, there are several types of model one would come across. Some of the important ones are listed here. There can be models for underwriting, or there could be models for application scorecard. Both these models are used for granting credit to customers. Then there are models related to customer behavior models that that is normally used to monitor the portfolios. Then risk decision models, some models are used for taking decision as to whether the credit should be granted to a customer or not. Pricing models used for pricing products, fixing interest rates and so on. Impairment and provisioning models, and there are stress testing model, recovery models, there could be capital planning models and so on. So it's important that a proper category is maintained by having a model type section in your model inventory. Then comes the product types. Now all the models that we discussed in the first slide uh, could be there for different products, or there could be a so that the different types of model that we discussed in the previous slide can be there for separately for separate financial products. For instance, one can have a application scorecard for mortgage, and one can have a application score for auto loan. So you cannot have a model that will cater to both mortgage and auto loan, because the behavior would be different. So product type should be well defined. Could be mortgage, NML, credit card, student loan, and so on. Model dependencies. When you have several models in place, and typically model inventory will have hundreds of models. There would be cases where the models are dependent on each other. So the linkage should be well defined. If the output from one model is being used as an input in another model, that should be well defined, so that while doing the monitoring or audit of the model, it should be ensured that the models on which this particular model is dependent on should also be monitored, or should be audited along with the main model. And calculations of many of these risk parameter, for instance the risk weighted asset, is done using several of the model. Okay. For instance, you would be requiring PD model, LGD model, EAD model in order to calculate the capital adequacy for Basel reporting. So there are dependencies, so that should be clearly defined as to which models are dependent on each other. Model usage. This is also important in the model inventory, because the purpose of building a model differs across business entities, and differs across uses as well. So it should be clearly defined which business entity the model is associated to, the products for which it is being used, the demographic it is being targeted at, the regulations it comes under. All these things should be well defined. Model adjustments. Adjustments are made to the model before they are being used in the production. So adjustment could be smoothing, where you take an average of your model output, so that's called smoothing. And then scaling, where change the scale or change the how do I say, change the scaling. You change the upper limit, the lower limit, or you multiply your model score with some number. Most of the times, especially in scoring models, you multiply it with 100 or 1,000. uh, so that has to be well defined. What is the cap, what is the floor? uh, so all that has to be well defined in the model inventory. Model owners, the details of the departments involved in model development, and then all the steps involved in the starting from data collection till model implementation should be well documented in some place where, for urgency purpose or some if some issue comes at some point of time, people can be contacted. So clear accountability should be defined, that who owns the model. Okay, so that has to be well defined. Model developer and validators, so that details, as I've already said, should be well documented. Then another important thing to be well defined is the key man exposure. Many times people who have built the model leave the organization, and in that scenario it is very difficult to keep track of the details that the model developer had documented. And then model same applies to model validation as well. It is also important to keep a track of the latest model validation details, because without the proper model validations, implementation and uses of the model cannot be made. So and that should be well documented. Model implementation and maintenance. IT team is an outsider to model development process, but they come into picture when it comes to model implementation, and they also have some role to play in maintaining the model. So this would be well briefed about the different aspects of the model, and there should be clear division of responsibility, and accountability should be clearly defined in by taking them on board. Maintenance strategy. Post production, the model should be well maintained and should be maintained on a regular basis. So that should be clear maintenance strategy, very well defined, so that on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, or weekly basis, or some periodic wise maintenance activities should happen. Reporting line in case of escalations, that's important, because something goes wrong while somebody is doing the maintenance activities. It should be clearly defined whom to contact, whom to escalate the matter, and how severe the matter is. If something is seriously wrong with the model performance, it has to be clearly communicated to the proper management responsible for this, so that it can be quickly fixed, and the situation can be brought down to the business as usual situation. Model approver, this is important, and very important, because uh, whoever is doing model development or validation, he has to approach the senior people in a bank to get the approvals. And there is normally there is always a committee which approve the models. So all the approval and contact details should be well documented with the email IDs, contact numbers, and everything. Escalation matrix should be there, so that if somebody is not available, it can be escalated to his senior. uh, Approval document is also important, wherein you put all the communication that has happened between the approver and the developer and validator. Documentation, no doubt this is this is the most important thing in model building and uses, because everything that you do with the model, starting from collecting data or maybe requirement gathering till your production and post production, every single thing has to be documented, because this will be replicated at a later point of time, and only if there is document available for this model, the replications can happen. Otherwise there will be a serious cost and labor that will be involved at later phase. So requirement gathering, data and sample selection, the types of product, assumption used in the model, model building and validation, methodology used, the limitations of the model, implementation and the uses. All these things should be well defined in the document, and there could be several documents though. And this is an important aspect of model inventory. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.